It's the Smut Pod Show. The Smut Pod Show. The Smut Pod Show. Welcome to smutpod.com show.
Hi folks, I'm just doing this quickly. It's the sound might not be great because I've got the computer running in the background and I'm doing a few little jobs. But I just thought I'd go through this age verification nonsense that the government's done about bringing in again. Right, they tried bringing it in before. Back then, they I believe they let Twitter off because they said something on the lines of, if you have X amount of porn, or no, not if you if the amount of porn is below something or other percentage wise, you didn't need to be age verified and all this nonsense. They look like they're trying to bring it back. It's total nonsense. It won't work. And the reason for a lot of people think that it sounds a great idea until they look into it. The reason it won't work is because nobody in the right mind is going to enter their credit card or passport or any details to a website they don't know about. Now, first of all, it's quite easy to set up a site and as a criminal, and basically, and this is what's going to happen, folks. This is why it'll be a complete disaster. All that'll happen is criminals will set up fake sites and ask people to enter their bank details, credit card details, passports and all that, and then they'll just basically clear your bank account. So, you know, within day one, literally people will be losing millions of pounds. Total nonsense. Now, some people, the other side of it is, the last system, it wasn't going to be run by I don't know if this new system's supposed to be by the actual websites, but the last system, which I tried to introduce a few years ago, it was by a third-party firms. Again, we didn't know if they were legit or not. I mean, you know, just because you set up a business doesn't mean you're legit. They could have been, yeah, and even if you're legit, doesn't mean that people working for you aren't legit. Now, I think they got a bit upset because I think these firms wanted to data collect, so they'd have everyone's information, and apparently the government's saying, no, they can't do that. So then no one's going to do it. So the question there is, will they charge websites to run it and all this? Considering you've got websites out there that might be making £50 a year, they're not going to be they won't be able to afford to pay out big bills and all this. It's nonsense, really. Of course, they're putting all these scare measures, such as sites failed to act could be fined up to 10% of the global turnover. Well, you know, if they're not based in the UK, they're not just going to ignore it. And even if they are based in the UK, the problem is, you know, most aren't going to put the details online, so you won't even know if the website's... well, when we say based, we mean the person lives in the UK. In most cases, they'll be hosting in America or somewhere like that. It's nonsense. And then you've got all the complications of what's porn, what isn't porn, all the various sites. You've got webcam sites, and you've got like sites like OnlyFans, free sites, blog. Oh, it just gets nonsense. I mean, they're not going to be bothering with this. And any site outside the UK is just going to ignore it. I mean, why would you take any notice of UK laws if you live in a different country? Just the same, I don't take any notice if Spain or another country brought in age verification. I'm not going to do anything for them because I'm not in that country. Oh yeah, and there's I'm just reading the BBC website here, so if you want to read about it, I'm reading quickly reading the article. Porn sites will be legally required to verify users' age by Shiona McCallan, technology reporter. It's just done 2 days ago. Oops, sorry, I've got the dog driving me nuts. And it gives the usual riffraff about studies have shown half of 11, 13 2-year-olds have seen porn at some point. So what? Right, put it this way. I walk past a high school and the kids are smoking weed. They're aged about 14, or smoking normal cigs, and I've seen them with alcohol. And I've been told you see that most schools now. That should be the thing that people are more concerned about. I mean, the truth is, no one's ever died of porn. Sorry, never have. Porn's been around since caveman times, and it's never, it's been on the walls of caves. Romans wrote about it, all sorts. I mean, we've had you could buy videos and DVDs, and it's just because it's gone on the internet isn't any great new thing. Even in primary school, we saw porn mags being dumped outside, and that's when I was about 6, maybe even younger. Well, I suppose you're going to say, but you make porn, so it has affected you. Blah, blah, blah. Experts who work with children say it gives them an unhealthy view of sex, the usual rubbish, blah, 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 scare. The fact that kids are taking drugs, that's not important, you know what I mean? If your kid's killing themselves on heroin, who cares about that? The people are more upset because your kid might be seeing someone naked. Now, the reality is, if you're going to argue porn affects people, then comedy should. All films should. Anything in that form of media should affect you. No, it's nonsense. Before you start saying some people have got addicted to porn, well, like I've always said, if you castrate yourself, I suspect that addiction suddenly ends. In other words, it isn't the porn you're addicted to; it's actually the sex act itself. Blah blah blah. Yeah, I'm gonna try and find websites that don't fill a room, and there we go. And Ofcom are trying to kick a little bit of power here. They want to have the power to block them from being accessed in the UK. I don't think this law will ever happen because, according to this article, they're wanting you to put your details in to go on Twitter. Well, get knotted. No one's going to do that, and I think there'll be lawsuits because people will be saying, "Hey, about you restricting us." Oh, and by the way, sorry, the dog's in the background moaning. She wants some dinner, I think. By the way, think about it. Not everyone's got a debit card, credit card, passport, driving license. So those people are going to be restricted. Well, they'll go on sites. And, the reality is that you've been verified already because everybody who goes on as a broadband in the house has to be 18. My understanding is you have to be 18 to sign a contract, and therefore, you're responsible for everyone who uses it. It's not somebody else. It's not the website's responsibility if you're letting people on using your broadband for the wrong reasons. It's a bit like the supermarket's not responsible for you buying beer and giving it to other people. It's just nonsense. And here we go. Blah, blah, blah. NSP. I'm not even going to bother because I don't think they've got any credibility left. Blah, blah, blah. Everyone's listening there. You see, this is just a fudge. I suspect this is just this is just to pretend that they're doing something. It'll drag out years and then it'll end up being dropped like last time. The online safety, blah, 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 blah. Not really. Now, I don't think it'll happen, like I said. I think this is just nonsense. Like I said, the reality is, the problem is, and this is what'll happen, a lot of people who anti-porn think this is wonderful. What they don't get is, all that'll happen is all the legit sites will just shut down, and you'll just have pirated sites setting up, and you'll have people selling pirated content. And the problem with pirated content, unlike legit sites, is that there's no traceability. For instance, that if you set up a porn site, if you've shot the model or you bought the content, you've got to have model release forms, age ID of all the models. If it's pirated, you don't know if the person's given consent or even if they're underage or not. Now, this isn't the first time they've tried bringing age verification in. They did it a few years ago. And I even wrote an article because, I don't even remember, they did this Channel 4 show, I think, That is this soppy thing, where they had to pretend to do some model porn or something with, I think, some women, a load of garbage. No, absolute most boring porn you've ever seen. No one's interested. Anyway, they did a website with it where you could watch the film, and it was like a demo of age verification. Now, day one, I went out and used an old I didn't think that'd work, actually. I used an old credit card. That was 20 years old or something. Completely out of date. And I accessed the site, no problem. And then a few days later, someone else gave me a link and showed that you didn't even need to enter any details. You could bypass it all completely. I think one of the newspapers actually contacted me and asked me to explain how I did it, and I told him, and it was a major story. I mean, it was just nonsense, the whole thing. That eventually, for some reason, just the law was supposed to come in, then they just dragged it out, and in the end, it dropped. It was just, it is nonsense. You've got to understand that. I think the idea before, and I don't know if they're still wanting it that way, is that before you go on the site, and before you even access it, you've got to go in, enter your debit credit card details before and be very. No one's going to do that, are they? Come on, who's going to trust any site? They get hacked and stuff, and even if they don't store the data, how do you know they're not going to store it? I won't. I'd literally. I tell people never put your details online like that. It's just stupid. How daft can the government be? That on one hand, it's telling people be secure, don't give out your details, don't respond to spam email. And then they're encouraging sites to pop up criminal sites, because we know there will be. There'll be thousands of them. You can take, you can just set up any fake site and then just get everyone's bank details. How mad can you be? These people are nuts. It's going to be, part of me wants it to happen just to watch how bad things will be, because I think you'll have lots of people, lots, losing all the money overnight and then blaming the government. Anyway, it's not the first time they played these silly games. It was a few years before this, they had something called ATVOD, where basically they stored, if you had any videos on the website, not embedded like a YouTube vid, but actually you hosted it, you had to pay. It didn't matter if it was porn or not, you had to pay. I think it was an offshot of one of the government things. I think it was the Film Censor Board, an offshot of them or something. And you had to pay them a fee. A fee for what? I have no idea. I think it started off about 120, and then it just got nonsense, and you had to comply by their rules. Sorry about that, folks. I'm just got the dogs running around in the background, driving me nuts. Like I say, I'm just doing this quick, and there might be a lot of background noise. The computers are whizzing away. Let's say there was ATVOD, and the problem there was companies, a lot of websites either closed or moved abroad or claimed to move abroad or ignored them completely. Like I say, it wasn't to do with it didn't matter if it was porn or not. And so one wonders if that smart arse idea of having ATVOD simply put a lot of huge firms off from wanting to move to the UK. Because if it was a media firm, why would you move to the UK? Because you wouldn't, but you'd have to, you couldn't really put your vids online without having to comply with lots of silly rules. Well, if you're in any other country, you didn't have to have that. And that's the problem with this age verification. Basically, what you're doing is, you're just going to stuff up it because it'll basically, one suspects, apply to only UK sites. So you're just going to put all the UK sites at a disadvantage, end up closing them, so that'll be tax there. All right, not everyone will be making a lot of money, but some probably will be. And then you've got all the models. You imagine how big it is. Well, the webcam models and you've got OnlyFans. You've got models there making £1 million a month. Well, you put them out of business. Fine. That's tax out the window. Just pay them, you just end up having to pay them unemployment for years. I mean, it's stupid. It's just nonsense. But I don't think it'll happen. I think what'll happen, my suspicion is this silly law is just to give the impression the government's doing something, and in a few years it'll end up being quietly dropped. It just keeps people happy, basically. Just keeps the silly people who want to censor everything because they're fascists happy, basically. But anyway, we'll see. Total nonsense. And you should be annoyed about it. I mean, we live in a free country. You don't need to have your body wiped by the government. I mean, why should we have age verification? What's it doing? Nothing. The illegal sites will carry on. They won't bother with it. All the non-UK sites, I suspect, will ignore it completely. They'll just block the UK themselves, voluntary. So, just total complete waste of time. Nonsense. I just get irritated with this rubbish. We have to go through this rubbish every few years. Just utter nonsense. Anyway, that's a little rant. I don't know how well it's recorded. Let's just see. Probably not even press record. Alright then, folks. Bye.
It's the Smut Pod Show. The Smut Pod Show. The Smut Pod Show. Welcome to smutpod.com show.